Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Halal Gap. Alongside Sofia Alani, I'm your host, Sikandar, and as always, we're joined by our talented producer, Asif Qureshi. Asif, how's it going, man?
It's going well.
Right on, dude. We have an incredible guest joining us today. Take it away, Sofia.
He's a model, food blogger, and actor who was nominated for Best Villain by the Seattle Film Critic Awards for his role as Black Phillip in The Witch. He has since gone on to star in hit series such as The Expanse and The Handmaid's Tale. Living in Toronto, he was the first South Asian male runway model at Toronto's Fashion Week, and if you need a good donut, he can probably help you out. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Daniel Malik.
Woohoo!
Woo!
I love that you added the donuts.
We had to. It was so important.
I think everybody needs to know that about me.
Yeah. How did you get into deciding to, do you just love donuts, or is it like all baked goods, or like what was the...
I've got a massive sweet tooth, I must admit. And yeah, donuts are actually my whole passion and journey with donuts is so funny. It started with this whole, cough last year, and everything being shut down. And I kind of just, I was following like a strict training regimen. And every Saturday was like my cheat day, and I would just treat myself to like everything. And then donuts were like my favorite thing on Saturdays. I'd have like a whole me day dedicated to donuts. It's quite embarrassing, but it is what it is.
So do you have any like donuts named after you at any like Toronto shops yet?
No, okay, I don't. But what's funny is that one of my good friends now is one of the owners of one of Toronto's, I'm biased, but one of Toronto's best donut shops. Shout out Dip Donuts in Kensington Market in Toronto if you guys live here. I'm the official brand ambassador, self-entitled. So yeah, because of the fact that I kept going there and I was like vlogging it, we just became boys.
That's awesome.
Perfect.
Donuts bringing people together.
Everybody needs a donut guy in their group. Okay, there's
100%.
You need like a mechanic, an accountant, a lawyer, and then a donut guy.
And the donut guy.
Do you like these like really crazy new donuts, or are you more of like a classic donut guy? Like these, these weird ones that they're coming out with, which are like savory and have like odd things on it and whatnot, and just like
it depends. Yeah, no, it depends, man. Like the pizza review guy, Dave Courtney.
Yeah, of course, from Barstool. Yeah.
So
One bite, everybody knows the rules.
One bite, everybody knows the rules. Everybody knows that. He's got a formula down. He gets the cheese pizza, right? Because there's so many different types of pizza.
100%. I agree.
Donut is hard because, I mean, you can't just judge a donut off a glazed donut, right?
Yeah.
A donut is, like the dough is the most important part. So you need three things, the airiness, the chewiness, and the sweetness to it. So.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. I was like feeling the impacts of isolation like about a month ago,
right.
And then I decided to go to like a dozen different donut shops and get a donut from each, and just did like
That's right.
Did you actually
Instagram story. I did it, man.
You did. I
was sick for like 3 days afterwards, but yeah, I had like a dozen donuts just reviewing, and I like blasted a few of them and tagged them, and people were like, "How could you tag them?" I'm like, they gotta know. It's gotta be honest criticism,
I
can't
love
not
the
be
fact
doing
that
that.
Isolation brought both of us towards donuts.
To donuts. And actually, I'm just recognizing there's so many similarities between the two of you, because like
making me blush.
Because you have, Daniel, you have your food blog situation, and Sikandar actually has, for our followers who don't know, an Instagram account devoted to reviewing movies and burgers.
No, what, burgers?
Specifically.
Burgers
burgers
is
is his thing.
Sikandar, I make the best burgers. No, to man.
That is a heavy statement to make.
He's very harsh.
I've got a tin sign in my kitchen that says "World's Best Donuts." So
okay. I mean, if you got a sign, that's
Dude.
good. So, all right, awesome. Well, next time I'm in Toronto, I'm gonna have to maybe take you up on that, man.
Oh man, definitely.
And put it on the account.
Review it.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
What are the cool kids calling it? Collab? A collaboration?
A collab?
Yeah.
Exactly. There we go.
Food blog collab?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll, who knows? We might dive back into donuts later, but get us started. Let's
go.
Roll it back all the way to the start. Tell us, where did you grow up? How did you first get exposed? We've heard some interesting Asif is our research king, and he dove deep into this one. But we want to hear it from you. How did you first get exposed into the entire world of like creative expression, we'll call it? Because you've been in modeling and acting and all sorts of stuff. So take us right back to your childhood.
Oh my gosh, my childhood. 'Twas a stormy Tuesday afternoon. I mean, I guess I could just, start from my father was he was in Toronto. He started. He was like a pioneer of multicultural news channel television. Like he was a director producer back in Pakistan. Then like when he came to Canada, he started. He did like a series of jobs, but then he ended up producing for a network here called City TV. And so every Sunday morning there would be like a multicultural news channel kind of program happening, and like he was directing that, and my mother was the host of it for like 14, 15 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
Is that how they met?
No. They met
that would have been so cute. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I know. Sorry to disappoint.
It's okay.
Wait, but did you guys, because like, I mean, I feel like there was in every Canadian city, they had this like variety network show on like South Asian, whatever.
Yeah.
Did you, and that's like my first exposure to like Kebab King, like the commercials. Did you guys,
Kebab
exactly.
King. That one? Oh my God.
Yeah, 100%. Did you guys run those ads? Tell me you ran those ads.
I think we did, man. I was really young.
Oh, amazing.
The funny thing is I've never ever seen an episode because I used I used to hate it. I'll tell you why. Because I was a child, and it was the weekend mornings. It was Sunday mornings. I want to watch cartoons.
Yeah, like cartoons. 100%.
So my father was always just like, stop watching TV in the morning. I gotta record it. Like he would just. I'm like, you made it.
Can't you get a recording from the studio? Like, why?
Don't you have connections?
Yeah.
I guess he just like collected like his own VHS, like like a archive of all the episodes. And
that's cute.
Yeah, so like it just like infused in my head. I'm like, I hate this program. It always interferes in my cartoon time. So, but no, we obviously ran ads and stuff, and it was like one of those shows. There was like a series of them, and then like the Trinidadian community and the Italian community, like they all started having their own, for like the demographics, and ours was obviously for South Asians. I don't know if you guys even heard about it. It was called Darti Sony Pakistan, DSP-TV.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
right,
I feel.
Sophia's a huge fan. Oh my God.
No, I grew up in Calgary, but like I feel like it was.
Yeah, we actually went to interview your dad, so if you can just
yeah.
Seems to be a mix-up somewhere along the line here, but no.
Yeah, we needed Papa Malik.
Yeah.
But no, that name sounds familiar, but I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, so I mean, he was doing that, and then vis-a-vis, like he was just like a I don't know how to describe it, but like he was like a middleman after that in like Canada for like any sort of like anything to do with South Asian community. If it was like a concert happening, if it was like a show happening, if like people wanted to put on, those shows like Shah Rukh Khan came down, like all these guys. Like, Temptation.
Went to the airport.
Yeah.
Saw him there.
My father was somehow like always the middleman. So like, people would come to him and be like, hey, we need investors or we need promoters or we need a venue. And my father like had just like this book of like contacts, and he would just be the middleman and connect everybody. So growing up in that, there was like such an influence in media, pretty much. Like I remember when I was a child, like not to name drop, but a little name, Karishma Kapoor. I remember I have a vivid memory of just playing on her lap in her hotel room, just like her getting ready for the show or something. So like, I didn't know what was happening. I just like these people were around me. I think I would just say that was like the origin of like, when they say you got the bug, right? So like I started getting interested in media and in film, and obviously movies like have always been such a huge part of my life. So
yeah, would you say that made it like? Because a lot of people we talk to, especially like immigrant people coming from immigrant families, or maybe more specifically like Muslim families, there's a little bit of a higher pressure on like more traditional career paths. Would you say that because your parents were both in media, that they were like, hey, go pursue like an artistic direction? Or
I wish, man. Unfortunately, I always think about this, man. It's like a huge thing in my therapy too. It's just like it was the typical like, no, you've got to be a pilot, an engineer, a doctor, anything that you
pilot.
I mean, that was more my mom.
that was not what we heard before.
You know what I figured? They would always say, you have to be the doctor, you have to be the engineer, you have to be all these things. Yeah. My mother said pilot, and I even had that reaction. I said pilot, and I'm like, wait, hold on. And I put all these careers together. I'm like, so you just want me to look good in a uniform? You know, like when for me to get
awesome.
married, you want that to be my picture of
Yeah.
my bio data. You know, like
Mm.
look,
It's
he
like
looks great in a uniform. Look, he's a doctor.
Yeah.
a doctor,
He's a pilot.
pilot, UPS driver, anyone. Take your pick, Daniel. Do it.
Yeah.
Shout out
Do it.
UPS. Yeah, I know. So they were actually they wanted me to go into like become a doctor and go into sciences and stuff. I think it was just because my father's like he struggled in the later years as well, and I think he just knew deep down inside that like, hey man, like you've got to be wired differently, and you have to know that like the path that you want to get into acting. There's not any real job security, and that's a huge thing in our culture. You need stability,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so it was actually the opposite. They were trying to just not do everything in their power for me not to go down this road.
Mm.
But I rebelled, I guess.
Which is so interesting because it's like you rebelled by doing what they did, which
is
it's like
it's really it's a big thing in my therapy right now.
yeah. It kind of it kind of reminds like The Rock talks about this all the time too, about how his dad was like a very famous wrestler, and then he was very much like, do not go into wrestling, and then obviously like The Rock like rebelled and became one of the best wrestlers.
I guess it's because we want to show that like, hey, like I respect and admire what you've done, and I see the struggle, but I'm still attracted to it. It still means so much to me. There's an importance to this, and if something is that important to you, I guess you don't really care if there's these obstacles. They don't seem to be as important, right? Like job security and things. You can still thrive through, and whatever the dynamic is between my father and I, my family and I, it's just, at the end of the day, I still want to show them that I did it, I'm doing it, and I will be doing it, and it's in your name, like you inspired.
Yeah.
That's
lovely. And do they like when you first tell us about? I guess we kind of cut you off in the middle of your bio telling us about your life, but like when you first
somebody has to.
No. I think it was an accident. But like when you kind of like your parents are doing this show, you kind of hate it, but like you're very kind of invested in the industry and stuff like that. And then like what happens after that?
Middle school and high school, just I mean, I would have to like go back into like why I even like started doing this. It would be, I don't know, I never fit in, to be honest. I was bullied all throughout middle school, all throughout high school, and I think it was because the change in location. So I grew up in Toronto. Here's a life story. So I grew up in Toronto, and in Toronto, it's like a mosaic of culture. Like all my friends were all different, colors and creeds and faiths and religions, and then you picked me up at a very young age. It was when I was about, how old are you when you go to grade 6? Like 13, 14 or something like that?
I think like 11.
Yeah.
Sorry. You
know what? Like, hey, it's all good, man. If it was 13, 14 for you, that's totally fine, man. That's
your
totally
journey, fine. Whatever works, man.
Man, I'm so bad at math. It's so funny. I never needed it. So we moved to a city called Brampton here, and I don't know for those who know it. And at that time, and I think still now, it's very heavily filled with South Asians. And when I went to that school, going into middle school, I lost all my friends from Toronto, and it was weird, man. That's like the first time I even encountered racism, and it was really weird because I was brown and they were brown, but it was like they were teaching me that like, no, but your brown's different, because I was like the one of 2 Pakistanis in that school, and the rest were Indians. And to me, it was like, oh, there's so many of me, but I didn't even know what brown was at that age. I didn't even know that like my brown had a different brown than yours. Like I didn't see that, but they were just like, no, you're Pakistani, we're Indian, we're different. And I was just like, well, what's going on here? And I dressed different, like I don't know, like I don't know how, like I dressed like I had Puma shoes. I had like jeans that were fitted and like fitted shirts. I wore like shirts under sweatshirts just to show how many shirts I owned or something. I don't know. I had like seashell necklaces and like diesel visors. Genos. You know the term Geno?
Oh yeah.
I was like semi-Geno, like Euro preppy kind of guy. And then like I went to a school full of like Air Forces and like jerseys and chains and fitted hats and. There was like everyone just started spreading rumors. They're like, oh, there's that gay guy, and like he's gay now, and like all this stuff. And like I was like, I don't understand what's going on here. And I didn't really care about it because all I cared about that age was like, let's just go ride bikes, let's just go have fun. Like that's all I want to do. And yeah, and that kind of transferred into high school, and like high school was just as bad, and I just I wanted to find myself, so I was always like I had this huge issue of my identity, and it was always because I never understood why somebody didn't like me.
Hmm.
These weren't like valid reasons, right? And it never made sense to me. And I was always like hopping from one foot to the next of like, do you like me now? What if I try this? What if I become this? What if I'm the jock? What if I'm the sporty guy? What if I'm like the science geek? Or what if I'm in the music class? Like, what about this? What about that? Do you like me now? And it never worked. And then I kind of just got sucked into writing, and I got sucked into performing. And in my school, it started off with those talent shows and whatever assemblies you have. I would write the scripts for every single show for 4 years. I would host every single show for 4 years, and that was my like metaphorical middle finger to all the bullies of like, hey, you can call me what you want, you can make fun of me as much as you want, but you and your family are buying tickets to come to school to see me on stage.
Yeah.
Oh, who's laughing now? So I did that for like 4 years straight, and it was like a passion of mine, and I felt respected by my peers by doing so, and that transferred into drama, and I got into I heavily went into drama from there, and I started writing, and it was my drama teacher, my high school drama teacher, Finley Frazier, who told me, he's like, hey dude, like, you should try to take this really serious after you graduate, because it looks like this is the only thing you're good at.
So maybe we can blame Asif if this is completely out of left field, but we read somewhere that you were in and out of hospital a lot growing up for some reason, and within like the hospital library, you kind of watched like got a bunch of movies that kind of got you some sort of a passion towards like film and the entire exposure to like Hollywood from that aspect, and you wanted to act out scenes for nurses. Is there any truth to this, or is Asif just completely bullshitting our bio for you?
Awesome, you should write a story because that's all fake. No, I'm joking. That's all true. Wow, awesome. Kudos to Asif, man. Wow, that is actually very true. I was just like clumsy klutz, man. I would get injured. I had like a few surgeries and like broken bones and fractures and everything from like my head to my toe. So yeah, that is true. I spent a lot of time in and out of hospitals for injuries, and yeah. Do you remember hospitals used to have like a library where you'd go and you like?
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if you've ever spent like a period of time in hospital. Sorry, but I certainly have. And they had, like I remember like watching the first Mario movie with John Leguizamo like in it, and Jurassic Park and things like that. And like I would just go to the library and just like collect all the VHSs and then watch it all day and all night. And then in the middle of the night, I would just perform them for the nurses who like came in. And
so like what, like reenacting or like improv? Like what was your performance like?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was like I can't remember the movie, but there was one about like music, and then I thought I was going to be a drummer for the rest of my life. So there was like a bucket in the washroom, and then like I got like these. I don't know what I even
was it drumline?
After, yeah, but I mean, I remember I was just sitting in the hallway of my room, the hospital. I would just like play beats on this drum, horrendous beats. The nurses hated it, but I would do that, and then like whatever like movie quotes I would remember from the movies, I would just like say it out loud and like try to like impersonate the actor that I saw. Like it was just I just kept doing that. Man, you took me back, Asif. Jeez.
That's great. That's awesome. So you're in high school. Your drama teacher is pushing you towards this career path. What from high school did you immediately move to London, or what was the next step there then?
That's funny. No, there was a bit of a break, schooling, the whole typical thing with the parents of like, well, you shouldn't go into acting, you should take a year break and like listen to us and like we know better, and you should go into study sciences, get a tutor and all this stuff because I was failing math 3 times, like I said. And I was just like, come on, guys. I'm like, I'm not going to be a doctor. Look at me. I'm horrible in school. Like this is, I was a bad student. And we kind of came to a compromise, and they said, hey, do post-secondary, anything you want. Now you can choose whatever you want, but it can't be acting. It can't be theater. It can't be anything like that, just in case your path leads you down the wrong way and you need a backup. It was kind of sensible. So I kind of just chose the most interesting subject at a local college. I ended up completing it. It was public and private investigations.
Oh,
Whoa!
he's a PI.
Yeah,
What?
which is kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I mean, like it had like interesting subjects, you know, like forensics analysis and economic espionage and risk analysis and fraud and all that. And I was like, all right, this will keep me kind of engaged. And my professors were like former CSIS agents and like, famous undercover detectives from like the Toronto Police Department and things like that. And I was like, this is kind of cool. But needless to say, met a little lady on a show at a modeling show I was doing, and she kind of like stole my heart and took me back to England at that time.
Oh, nice.
And
wait, so were you acting at this time, like doing drama or theater, or what were you doing?
Behind everyone's back, I was doing like short films and stuff, like anything that
Okay.
city, any play that was happening, any short film that was happening, anything that anybody was putting on or needed, like, you know, non-union actors at that time, I would just be doing behind everyone's back. And then that's how I got into modeling, because someone's like, hey, you like acting, we're putting on a show, you're tall, you know, why don't you put on my clothes? I was like, all right, great. That's where I met my lady friend, and she was a model, is a model, and she took me back to England, and I followed her there, and I kind of like semi-lived there throughout my college years. So every 3 months I would stay there for like 3 months, do like half the courses online, and then I would come back to like finish like an exam or a test and stay for a bit and then go back. So like over a course of a year, I was back and forth from like England. And I didn't even like attend my graduation or anything. It was just because I ended up modeling in England. And that kind of like sparked everything, actually. From England, I got a campaign for a guy named Jamie Stevens. He was like this wicked hairstylist for like X Factor at the time. And I did his campaign, and that kind of trickled back to Toronto. And then that landed me an agent. And then from there, I got Toronto Men's Fashion Week. And then that kind of just like snowballed itself in regards to modeling.
Very cool. Very
cool. So you missed your graduation, so like you didn't get your PI license?
Yeah, I don't even know. We were just talking about this the other day. All my friends and I were like, do you have your diploma or degree? Like, do you know where it is? And like some of them were just like, yeah, I think it's like under my parents' bed or something. And like none of us know where our diplomas are. It's so funny. My whole friend group, we didn't really do anything with the degrees that we paid for and that we went to school for. It's very interesting how like that influence, like the influence from your family, it's well intended, but none of us, all of us followed our dreams. All of us followed our passions, and it worked out. Luckily, knock on wood.
And to be fair, like the area you did choose could potentially be great, like background for an acting job if you like needed to play a PI or something, or you're like, actually, this is inaccurate. What would actually happen is you would do this. Like, that's great. That's it's still a relevant skill.
Exactly. And if ever anyone asks me like, hey, how do you know that? Did you go to detective school? I'll be like, yeah, you know what?
That's
funny
perfect.
You should ask. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Little do you know. That's awesome. So London, you come back. You kind of
wait. Before you come back, I want to talk a little bit about London. Like, so moving to a new country. Obviously, you're not fully alone. Like you moved with a significant other, and that's obviously makes things a little bit easier. But was that your first kind of experience being? Did you feel like fish out of water at all, especially going into more of like a creative focus for the first time as well? Like, because you mentioned you were still kind of doing the school on the side, but it wasn't really the big focus. So what, like mentally, I guess, what was that transition like? Was that in your mind like, okay, now I'm pursuing this for real and it's going to be through this channel, or were you just kind of going with the flow and taking whatever came?
It's there was 3 incidences, that's a word. And one was the England trip. And then basically I always wanted to get out. I always knew that I just wanted to get out of my environment. It wasn't what I wanted. You have that deep rooted feeling that this is what I need to do. So when I was in England, I did feel a bit of a fish out of water. But I had my peers there, and I had my support system there. And they were just like, hey, like, you're here now. You're here. Like you made it this far. So just take another step and keep taking steps until something happens, something lands. And I don't know. Yeah, I really blame, not blame, but I really give credit to like just like a state of flow when you're not really focused on anything in particular, but you're just embracing and you're accepting all opportunities, and your head is up, not down. So you're noticing every opportunity that passes over your head. And I was just in a state of flow, and things were just coming, and things that I'd fail at, I would never look back at, and I wouldn't dwell on them. I would just keep chucking, and the perseverance, I guess. And so when when I started modeling there, I was like, okay, well, this is cool, but I got to go back to Toronto. And then in Toronto, someone saw that, and they said, hey, why don't you just be a model? This is cross promo for acting. It's all relative. And so I did that. I got an agent in Toronto, and I started modeling for a few years. And that's when, the Toronto Fashion Week happened and all that. And then another thing happened where I started feeling that this isn't what I wanted to do. Like, acting has now somehow taken a backseat, and now modeling is going full fledged. I enjoy it, but not as much. And I wanted to get out again. So I was like, I already did England. I'm not going to go back to England. Also, my lady friend and I had departed. And I remember I was feeling super, super lost. And I decided to just, quote unquote, run away. But where do I go? So I had three options. I had New York, LA, or Pakistan. Don't know why these three.
Yeah, I'm like, this is that pilot, doctor, or lawyer situation.
It is 100%.
One of these things is not like the other. Yeah.
Why Pakistan was there? But the way I looked at it was, okay, I can go to New York, but how much money do I have? I don't have enough. If I go to LA, I'll probably be broke in like a month. But if I go to Pakistan, I can kind of like meditate and like do my thing and stay for however long I want and live like a king. So I remember I booked the ticket the night before, and I'll tell you how like lost I was. I literally booked the ticket the night before without telling anyone.
Oh wow! Wait, what year was this? Just like frame of context.
This was 2016.
Okay.
I believe.
Like 5 years.
Yeah,
okay.
I believe 2016. Yeah, that would make sense because the second I got back, I became a full-time actor in Canada. So I booked a ticket. I remember my mom seeing me like pack my stuff, and she's like, "Where the hell do you think you're going?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, remember when I told you that I was thinking of like leaving someplace, going tomorrow?" And she's like, "Where?" I'm like, "Pakistan." She's like, "Are you an idiot?" And I was like, "Why?" She's like, "Listen, I know you need to like do this for your soul and like find yourself, but you could die. You can't just go to Pakistan by yourself without telling anyone." I was like, shit, that's so true. It's a third world country. Like, it's not the safest country. So she like made a couple phone calls and like told people like to pick me up, and like she situated me. Like, my mom saved me literally. I was so stupid.
Growing up, did you guys like did you go to Pakistan often?
Yeah,
Like,
I've been to
what was
Pakistan
your
a couple of
connection
times. I've been to Pakistan a couple of times, but like as a child, right? This
Right.
was like my,
And then like the time before that, I was probably like in high school. I was like 15, 16. But still,
Got
I
it.
didn't really experience that as an adult. This is my first time going solo, going as an adult, and also just not telling anybody, which was like, I don't recommend doing that.
And did you have like family there?
Yeah, my mom's
you were,
sister
like,
lives
super-
in Karachi, and then we had a family friend who lived in Lahore.
So we had Lahore and Karachi covered. So my plan was to spend a week and a half in like Lahore, and then like a week and a half in Karachi, and then come back. I just wanted to go and just kind of like, meditate and just like figure myself out, see something new. I kind of missed Pakistan at the time too. So I was like, okay, this is beneficial and I can afford it. It's all good. I hit the ground running the second I landed. I was supposed to go for 3 weeks, and I ended up staying for 3.5 months because, again, state of flow. What like opportunities arose. Someone saw that I was there, and they recognized my work from Toronto in England and Pakistan, England. Like everyone knows each other from there. And I started doing runway shows, and I started doing campaigns, and I started like everything was coming to me, and I wasn't even like asking for it. I was like, I'm just gonna say yes to everything. So I started working in Pakistan, and if you were to tell me, hey man, next month you're gonna work in Pakistan, I would have started laughing. Like, why would I be doing that? But I was full-fledged working every day for 3.5 months in Pakistan, and then with my luck, crazy story, I ended up connecting with a guy who was like, hey, do you want to act? And I was like, yeah, like that's like, yeah, of course. So
This is while you're still in Pakistan.
This is while I was still in Pakistan.
Okay.
And it was wild, man. Like, I don't know, like Pakistan just like they show you a lot of love the second you're in that industry. I don't know, it's weird. Like I was sitting in a cafe, and I'm like flipping through the newspapers, and I'm seeing my face, and I'm like, what? This is surreal. And And then someone's like, hey man, like you're kind of blowing up here and you've only been here for a couple of weeks. Like, do you want to, like, I can introduce you to a guy, like he's producing a show. And I ended up auditioning for a show and I booked it. And now, guys, my Urdu is not the perfect. I
was gonna ask. I'm like,
yeah,
Yeah,
I have the
so.
most American accent when it comes to Urdu, and I ended up booking it because, and I'll tell you why. It was a comeback project for a director, and the show was the equivalent to what Twilight is. Okay, but in Pakistan, it was a jinn meets a mortal.
Oh, interesting.
Cool concept. So I was auditioning for the equivalent of Robert Pattinson's role, Edward, in this film, and I did the audition. I knew I bombed it, but then the director's like, "It's so cool how you use the Urdu in this very weird accent." I'm like, "No, it's my American accent."
He's like, you're really embodying the jinn thing, and you're like, nah, bruh, I'm just not able to do this.
Yeah, exactly. But he was such a sweetheart. He realized that I just was shit out of it, and he was just like, no, but you know what? It works for the character. Like, he's a jinn. He's not supposed to be from here. He's going to speak weird. So it was kind of cool. I mean, I ended up booking it. I'm on set. I'm like, we're rehearsing with the cast and all this, and then something happens where the head of the network calls and asks to meet me. And I sit down in her office, and I think it was like an ROI project or something like that. And she was very nice. She just goes, "Hey, you're doing great work. Love it, but we can't risk this new show because in Pakistan, this was a risky show. It was a brand new concept. Like, usually they repeat the same storylines, like whatever the climate is in Pakistan. All the shows surround that, and it's always targeted to one audience, which are the females who stay at home all day and watch TV. The men come home and they watch news. So like the programs are relatively similar in storyline and plots. This was completely out of left wing. It's about jinns, it's about vampires and things like that. And they're like, we can't risk this show with an American boy, so we're gonna have to recast.
And you were like, actually, I'm Canadian. It's all good.
But what was funny was that in the room, I was so okay with everything. Like that was my like attitude towards everything. It was like, it's okay, like it's cool. I'm just gonna keep moving because things are happening. I'm not gonna dwell on this. So she literally let me go, and I was just like, cool. And she's like, yeah, that's it. And I was like, yeah, no, that's great. I get it. I totally get it. Like, I'm gonna bomb this show. Like, don't worry about it. And then she was just like, wow, like honestly, you're taking this quite well. But the reason I was taking it quite well because the way I looked at it was I just came to a third world country and I made it as an actor, and I can do this. This showed me that I can do this. Why can't I do it back home? That very day I contacted who my now agent is, and I said, hey, are we still on for the meeting? She said, yeah, whenever you're back. I'm like, I'm catching the red eye. And I flew back to Toronto and I signed.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So then was that the transition to be like, okay, I want to go put more of an emphasis onto acting? Or were you still okay?
Yeah, I left my modeling agency in Pakistan, and my next email was to the acting agent. I was like, this is it. You got my full attention. Let's do this. Let's roll.
Yeah. And how did that go? Like, what was your first? Because I mean, you did the Witch came out shortly after, right? It wasn't too much longer after. So was that
everything started happening?
So to walk us through that a little bit, like what was it?
So
immediately you started getting auditions, or
so I had the Witch in the bag before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had the Witch in the bag before, and that was like a cool little story there too. I mean, like I wasn't even wrapped by an agent or anything, but like I had a modeling agent, and she knew somebody, and she's like, hey, I know this is not modeling, but I know you want to be an actor. Do you want to audition for this project? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I went in again, not knowing anything. It was my very first audition, very first everything. And I walked in, and I had just come back from England at this time. So I'm a mimic. So I was mimicking the accent. Luckily the film, it's in Shakespearean language, and it utilizes the accent. And I did the audition, and I remember at the end of the audition, the woman goes, oh, so I guess we don't have to, look in England for this part. And I was like, oh, why is that? And she goes, well, you're from England. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, right.
Cool.
Yeah. And then I ended up booking it, and I'll tell you a little side story. I was so scared of losing this project that I maintained this fake British accent for the whole entire shooting.
Method, man. Method acting. All the way through.
Because the entire cast was from England, and I was like, if I'm not from England, they're gonna let me go.
Oh my god.
So you just willed it to happen. You're like, I'm from England now. That's the reality.
It was so funny. I remember Kate Dickie, who played the mother, she's a sweetheart, and I think she's from Ireland, I think. And she was just like, oh, so Daniel, where are you from? And I was like, England. And she's like, but where? You know, like what city? And I was just like, Central. You know, London. Like, yeah, because your accent.
She's like,
it's very like all over the place. And I was like, yeah, you're telling me.
So like, when did they find out and like break it to you? Like, or did you break it to them? Like what? Or were they just like, great job, and then you cut and were like, hey, so like, by the way, I'm not.
No, I think they're gonna find out when they hear this podcast.
This is
They still don't know.
The big unveil right here.
Yeah, they still have you on their list of like, if you're looking for a British actor, we've got this guy. That's amazing. Also, have you found that like the mimic? Because I've as a child, I was also a mimic with accents, and like I would come out of a 3-hour Harry Potter movie and be British for like an hour, and I couldn't, like, it would just happen, and I was like, I don't understand. And I used to work at a store in a mall when I was in high school, and this German couple came in and were like talking to me, and I like started to like, and I was like, they're gonna think I'm making fun of them. Like I like went into the back. I was like, one of you needs to go help them because like I'm gonna get fired. So like, has it ever gotten you in trouble?
Oh, it probably has. I can't remember from the top of my head. I used to just do a thing, and anytime I went out to the city and pick up ladies or anything like that, I would just, who am I today? Am I Scottish today? I want to try it. Am I from like?
That's amazing.
Yeah, I would just try different accents. I love accents. I love mimic, but I'm also mimicking just behavior as well. It's a form of communication where you just start mirroring the other person, and I think it's a sign of respect as well. If someone is struggling with English, you're not going to continue to speak. I can speak English really fast, and I'm a fast speaker. But if I meet someone who English is not their first language, I naturally start slowing down my speech, and I'll kind of like cut my English up so they can pick up the certain keywords. Like it's just mirroring, right? But it's also mimicking, but in a positive manner.
And like in that, because you mentioned too in your story about like being in school, how like you kind of tried on these different personas or like different looks, like trying to kind of see like why people didn't like you and what could make them like you. And like with that and like the mimicking and stuff, like do you feel like that was all just a part of you just like really just at heart being an actor, and like that was just like trying on these different roles and like kind of being these different personas was just like something that just came so naturally to you?
Yeah, maybe, man. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it wasn't fun for the time being because I was really trying to just be liked and respected, and it was very hurtful to not really land, but at the end of the day, it's a life's lesson. It taught me just be who you are. Like it's just be present. That's it. Just be present. You don't need all of this everything. And I think that's the second I realized it, and the second I voiced it, that I don't need to do this, I don't need to be playing all these characters, I can just be present. And people like that, and that's very hard, and that's very hard for a lot of people, especially like nowadays, because I feel like whatever with the pandemic and the year that was 2020, a lot of people became different versions of themselves with everything that was happening, and it's very hard for some people to just be present, be themselves. Like sometimes you don't know who you are, but I mean, it all comes down to taking care of yourself and being true to yourself and not worrying what other people think of you.
On that point of kind of identity and just more broadly speaking about identity, something that I noticed, and I'm more so just curious as to what your reasoning behind it was, is that you kind of went through an evolution of like your credited name. Like I think in The Witch you're credited as like Wahab Chaudhry, and then I think some of your performances when you probably came back from Pakistan were under Daniel Chaudhry, and then now you're kind of going under Daniel Malik. So like, what was the
Who are
reasoning?
you?
Yeah, who are we currently interviewing and why? Yeah.
Clearly still has an identity crisis. IMDb completely hates the fact I keep changing my name.
Yeah.
So obviously my birth name is Wahab Chaudhry, but the reason I adopted the name Daniel was because before Wahab was chosen as the name, my namesake, my aunt, from my mother's side, when I was born, named me Daniel, pronunciation. But then our families, we always have like this important figure that lives in like a village in Pakistan who you've never met in your entire life, but like he has significant ranking in like the hierarchy of your family.
Yeah.
He makes a phone call. I've never met this man in my entire life. He makes a phone call to my mom and goes, I had a vision and he should be named Wahab. And so they changed it. They chose Wahab. So when I found out this whole story, I was very angry that this guy who I've never met chose my freaking name. I did this whole, I don't know, to be honest, it was like I always, when I knew that it was supposed to be Daniel, I did like a little online search of like the significance of names. And I shit you not, I put in Wahab and it goes accountant-like, studious, mathematician, educator, all these things. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is all the things that I'm not. And then I put Daniel, and I shit you not, Daniel goes artistic, creative, actor, writer, passion-driven. And I'm like, okay, no brainer. Gonna choose Daniel. So I was Daniel Chaudhry, and then the reason I chose Malik was just I don't know. It was on Mother's Day, and I wanted to give a gift to my mom, and so I kind of took her last name. I did take her last name. I don't know. I've never really I know why, but I just never really vibed with the whole male patriarchy and just like the mother needs to like finish her religion, and like we all have to take the man's side. But I don't know. I never like. Clearly, I've never been attached to my name, so who knows? If I get married, I'll just take my wife's last name too now.
That'd be dope.
Yeah.
fully support this. Cool. And I had a question before Sikandar asked his name one that I wanted. Oh, yeah. So you mentioned, this is just like a general question, not so much about you, but when you were talking, it made me think of it, where like you were saying that like the pandemic has kind of like force people to kind of like change who they are. And I've noticed that a lot too with like myself, with like people I know. And like, do you think that it's authentic? Because like, so for example, myself, I'm like an extrovert. Like when you take those like Myers-Briggs things and they're like I'm 50-50 on everything except introversion versus extroversion, where I'm like 100% an extrovert. And I'm finding that like in this time now, it's like very like I get like exhausted in social situations, which is something I've never really experienced before. I'm like having a harder time maintaining eye contact with people in a way that I used to. Like just like things that I'm noticing that I'm like, is this the pandemic or is this like secretly who I've always been? And like I've just been fronting my whole life. And I just like wonder if like these things that we're all realizing, like is it just because we're all under like such an immense amount of stress, or is it because like we are free from like the gaze of other people and are able to just like be?
Listen, I met a therapist on a bus on a Tuesday, and so I can give you a diagnosis.
I was gonna say, did you mean to ask Daniel or your therapist? Sofia? What's going on here?
I have a therapist, man. We've had this chat.
Have you come across the New York Times article about this term that's been coined, languishing?
Languishing, yes, I did read that.
So that's like
I have read that article. Yeah.
So they're saying that this is what we're all feeling now, like with the we're at the hopefully the tail end of this pandemic, depending on where you live. But it's this acute state of anguish has now given way to a chronic condition of languish, and we've just been going through it for so long that we're in this weird limbo between depression and flourishing. So now we're just kind of floating in this limbo in between, and we don't really know. We're not really progressing. And humans really thrive off of progression. It's been, there's several studies on this as well. But this article was really interesting in New York Times. I think it was by Adam Grant, who's actually a therapist as well, psychologist. Sorry. And so I think that's what you're describing. It sounds like it. I mean, I mean, you touched on something that me and Sikandar have a lot in common. I don't know if you want to talk about this, dude. I feel like we're gonna switch this now. It's my podcast.
No, let's get in. Go for it.
I am the captain now. But you tell me if you don't want to get into it. But I did my research, and it seems that you've lost your father last year, man.
I did.
Yeah.
Just last month, actually. Yeah.
Oh, last month.
Yeah.
Okay, so I saw May. I just didn't know if it was last year or if it was. I'm sorry to hear that.
No, thank you, bro. Thank you.
So we actually, I mean, my father as well passed away last May.
Oh man.
Yeah, on May 31st, and so which was like last week. It was the anniversary, and and I mean, sorry, yeah, I kind of went there in my head now.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, it's this 2020 really took a freaking toll, man. Like, I mean, everyone has gone through their fair share of obstacles, and it came out of nowhere. This little thing that we're experiencing now, it literally came out of left wing, and this is going back to the question of people and their different versions of themselves. I just feel like when everything shut down and everything was stripped away from us, people lost their jobs. There was a different change of environment, and like everything was just so different, and literally everything was stripped away from us. I just feel like all those obstacles that were present, even pre-COVID, people had distractions. People had work and priorities and things to attend, and that's why they weren't, focusing on their obstacles or conflicts. But now, when you strip everything away, everything's right in front of you. Now you have to deal with it. You have no excuse. So it was at that moment I feel that I started seeing everyone handled it differently. Some people powered through it because they had the mental state for it, they had the willpower for it. Some people just completely crumbled. Some people kind of had like a mixture of things. And I feel like that's what created different versions of people, because now it's like, oh shit, who am I? Because I was always distracted. I was always like in a rat race, and I was always working or I was always doing something else. But now it's like, I got to figure my shit out. And that's why I feel like I was definitely a completely different version of myself in 2020. Like, I don't know who I was in 2020. I went through a lot. I lost my father, and then I went to a state of depression, and I spiraled. I had this very crazy relationship with food. I was actually suffering from bulimia for quite some time. I'm still coming out of that. And it's, I gave up on myself literally in 2020. I compared to 2019, like 2019 was by far the best year of my entire life. Like, talking about state of flow, like I was in a constant state of flow. I was the most competent I've ever been in my entire life, and the most happiest I've ever been. And then like 2020 was such a shift, and I recognized that I forgot how to take care of myself. I wasn't going through therapy. I pushed everyone away, all my friends, all my family. I let everyone at arm's length. I wasn't talking about anything. I didn't even tell anyone my father passed. Even the people who I lived with, my best friends, like no one knew. And for months, and I was like, this is eating away at me. And I was just like, and I started developing this crazy training regimen. I was losing weight. I dropped to like 160. I was at like 11.5% body fat, and like I was like eating no calories, and then I would start binge eating at night. Like, it was all a state of depression, and I literally crumbled. Like, I had hospital visits and everything, and then I got COVID. And then that happened, and then that really kicked me on my ass. And then, yeah, man, I mean, like, you just wake up one day and you're like, holy shit, I really got to start taking care of myself. You really have to like wake up and like, and I think the trick is you have to name it. Okay. You have to put a name to it. Your body's in a constant fight or flight this year. And if you give a name to what you're feeling, it kind of strips away the fear. It strips away the power that it holds. If you start naming that, okay, you know what? I am depressed. Okay. You know what? I am scared. You know what? I do need to get my shit together, and I do need a therapist. I do need to talk to somebody. This is what I'm feeling. That's half the battle if you just acknowledge it. And I started doing that in like about November, December, and I really got my shit together, and I'm better for it now. So sorry, I just went on a tangent. You guys should have cut me off there.
No, man, That was really nice.
I think talking about, as you said, like talking about this, I think is so important. So thank you for sharing that with us and with our listeners. And so you have kind of touched on this a little bit as we've talked, but like you, that therapist you met on a bus, is that your therapist, or were you just wrangling for me, looking out for me?
I've got my own therapist. Yeah. I actually, I also in that last year, my acting coach was also pretty much my therapist, and she had passed as well. So I was like, it was really, really tough. Like you name it, I went through it last year. But sorry, what was the question?
I know you mentioned like therapy a few times. So if you wanted to talk about that, has that like helped you in your acting? Like, has it like,
100%.
what's kind of been that journey?
Oh, 100%. I'm so better for it. And what's funny is that if you were to ask me, I say about 5-6 years ago, I didn't really understand what therapy was. I have a vivid memory of me talking to somebody who had a therapist, and I was like, okay, cool, it sounds great, but isn't it just in your mind? Can't you just like tell yourself to be better? Like that's how ignorant I was to it. And and then about 4 years ago, 4 years ago, I started seeing my first therapist. It was psychotherapy, and that I really started understanding that, man, there's a lot of things in my childhood that's been creeping up, and it's kind of transformed the way I view certain things, like relationships and friendships, and my attitude towards them, and what I expect out of them. And I was never, like I said, I was never putting a name to it. I was never really focusing on it. So there were issues, and how it's helped me with my acting. I mean, the better you are with yourself, the better you are just in life, the more present you can be. And if anything, acting is being present.
Yeah.
And if you are lost soul and you're crumbling, that's all you can be at that moment, is what I think. Like you can't do your job. You can't work. You can't live your life. You can't be in a relationship. If you don't love yourself, you're not taking care of yourself. How can you do that for anyone else? Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, for me anyway as well, right? Like it's one of those things where when you look at the entire last year and through COVID and everything as well, it's a very isolating time, but also an opportunity to just kind of like accelerate a lot of things that were probably going to happen, right? And that's internally as well as like externally, that potentially some demons that you have to face eventually, or potentially some like external whatever. Even think about like industry, right? Transition to more tech-based stuff, blah blah blah. Everything just got accelerated. And so I saw with relationships, even people getting married faster, people getting broken up faster because they're being forced into these vacuums. And I think for me anyway, it was a lot of that as well, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of understanding what's happening, and then going through a traumatic event like losing a parent is like compounds on that substantially. I guess we do have a lot of parallels in the sense that I also work like outside of my role in the Mosquers. I work in a role similar to my father, right? And grew up in an environment where him and I had basically parallel career paths, similar to you and your dad. And I'm wondering, and again, we don't have to talk about this if you're not comfortable, but and I don't know what your relationship was like with your father, but was that something that, because you mentioned that you didn't tell anybody close to you after he had passed, is that something that you did it ever become a situation where it became almost like a legacy thing for you, where after he had passed, you wanted to kind of refocus your efforts towards carrying it forward even more? Or was it, did it just kind of put you into a dark tailspin and you had to kind of lift yourself out of it on your own terms?
It's a mixture of both. It's more the latter. My relationship with my father, I'm comfortable speaking about it. It was a very dysfunctional relationship, but we weren't very close. Like I say father, I say that I had a father, not a dad. He was present, he was there, but we were not close. The family dynamic is, it's been like that since birth. So I never really understood what this figure was in my life, and I guess I have tried to find it in certain people, like such as teachers growing up. Shout out John Morris. He was like my second father in middle school, and then I would find it in my peers, and when he passed, it was a lot of just like acting aside, it was a lot of like, never got to have that conversation with him, of the, why was it like this? Like all the anger that I had or any frustrations that I had or anything that I wanted to speak about, we never had that discussion.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, it was really hard mentally to just kind of wrap my head around that. I'm like, oh, there's not going to be that time where I'm older and maybe have a child and then he gets to see his grandkid and maybe then we have that conversation, where he can explain to me, why it was the way it was. I'm kind of trying to just put everything together now myself. And I think that's quite difficult, and through therapy that will help. You have to voice it, put a name to it, and kind of understand why it was on your own. And it's always that unknown too. Like you'll never know the real reason because he'll never be able to tell me. But I wasn't sharing the information just because of just sheer depression, and I didn't know how to. I was like a mute. I actually had become a mute for 3-4 months. I couldn't speak to anyone, and I was just taking it out on myself. And I didn't understand that I was doing that because I wasn't aware that I was harming myself. I wasn't aware that I was in depression. I wasn't aware of anything. I just wanted everything to end, and I literally felt like I was like this rhinoceros that was blindfolded, just like plowing through this year, month after month after month. I just wanted things to end. But every month, something would happen. And that would just propel it for another 30 days. Another thing would happen. Another thing would happen. Like my friends, it actually then became to a point where it just became a joke. My friends would just, after a while when I was opening up, my friends would just be like, dude, did you make like an exchange with a witch? Like, did you, like, what's going on? Like, are you cursed?
The movie's coming to life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a movie coming to life. Like, dude, what the hell happened? Like every month something's happening. This is insane. It's out of your control. But then that was the key, right? It's out of your control.
Right. Totally.
So you have to be in control. So I just made a decision, man. And like, I thank God, man, that the second I made that decision, I'm like, I got to start being in control. Like things started getting better, literally.
Yeah.
But like going back to my father, I mean, like, yeah, like I always had the goals, man. Like, it sucks that I can't do it anymore, right? Like one of my goals was, to get that high profile job and get that job security to be like, hey, look, I did it for you. Like I got the job security now. I can pay off your mortgage. Like that's a goal. Like I can pay off all your debt. Like that's a goal. Like I can do all these things. Now I can't do that, right? So it's in a way, it's just that dynamic where we didn't speak, but I still had respect for the man, the man that he was. Right? He still provided till his dying breath, even though the family wasn't close. So there always will be an immense amount of respect. And sure, we weren't speaking or anything like that, but all my work, and still going to be, all my work is in the name of my family. That this is for us. It's not just for me, right? So,
no, I completely can appreciate that for sure, man. For sure. I want to know a couple of things before we jump into what we like to end with, which is our rapid fire. But what do you like coming out of 2020? Obviously, very very difficult period. What's next? Like what you mentioned that kind of November, December, you were able to kind of get your kind of focus back, your attention back a little bit. Are you working on anything right now that we can look forward to seeing? Like what's next for you?
Well, coming out of 2020, man, I mean, with everything that has been going on, and I just want to, I'll end that with this, is that, like, what's a good word for it?
everybody experienced a lot of tragedy in 2020, with the passing of our fathers as well. But with tragedy, there's a lot of power in that. There's it's a reminder that this is like a temporary existence for us. And just, I don't know, for me, knowing that, it just provides clarity when, we're just here for a little blimp on the map of the greater scheme of things. It kind of put into perspective that don't take everything so seriously and don't take everything, to heart, and don't dwell on things, because are you going to be mad about it in 5 minutes from now, an hour from now, a week from now, a year from now? Does it benefit you? No, it doesn't. It never does. But yeah, coming out of 2020, I have this newfound appreciation, man, for my friends, for shout out John, my best friend. He's a great support this year, and he practically like saved my life, literally. I have a newfound, appreciation for my work. Work is back. I do kind of feel a little like we were talking about, like a little languishing, where it's like I feel like we've been at this red light for so long, and now things are opening up and it's about to turn green. I feel like I'm not ready yet to just hit the gas pedal, because I'm like, because it's just one of those things, right? Like if someone says no, 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 go, and you're like, oh shit, what? I don't know
What?
Yeah. So I do kind of feel that way, but I'm super stoked. I mean, like right now I'm not attached to a project, but there are a lot of exciting projects that I am working towards. And I've been blessed to audition for them. So at the moment, no project, just creating things on my own for social media. I'm creating a little project with a guy. We just finished shooting the first part of it. I'm trying to just switch my social media right now to like just like more vlogging, more like content based, less about like pictures and stuff. Like I'll still do that, but I just want to create something, you know. And got something going on. It's just in the works right now, but that's.
Can you give us any insights, or is it still pretty DL?
Yeah, it's like it's because we were actually working on it in 2020, and it was like because I was like on a real good high, and I was working and like things were happening, so it's kind of like it's kind of weird to put it into a log line, but like a day-to-day life in a like a day in the life of just like a series where it would follow me on set, it would follow me with my projects, it would follow me with my training and these little because like I want to start living like I want to have tentacles, my hands like tentacles in like different areas of life, not just acting, right? Because like training health, nutrition is a really big part of my life, food is a really big part of my life, so I wanted to create this series, and hopefully the end goal would I would start traveling with the series around the world and start doing things. But
right on.
So, and I think I saw on your Instagram that you really love Anthony Bourdain. And so was he an inspiration for that at all in terms of that travel food?
Ask me what I grew up watching. I know I was saying cartoons, but my second favorite channel network, Food Network. I love it, man. I've been cooking since I was 11. I started cooking by just, taking scraps out of the fridge. Actually, this is a funny story. And we've all been through this. I know this for a fact. When you're a child and your parents don't want to leave you behind and they have to go to a friend's house for dinner, they say, come along. And your first question is, are there kids? There's never kids. Yeah. So they bring you to the house and they let you sit on a couch in the corner of the room while they go about their business. And then I remember my parents would always do this, and I would get hungry, and you could only eat when everyone else is eating. So I would just end up going to the fridge of a random person's house and just making a sandwich.
That's amazing.
Can that be another series you make? Is you just show up unannounced at someone's house and you're like, "Can I?"
Oh my
and
God,
you just go in their kitchen and cook something?
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
You're producing.
That'd be incredible.
Done.
You're producing.
Done deal. That sounds awesome. Perfect.
Okay, so to wrap up our segments, Daniel, we like to end with some rapid fire questions. Are you down?
No. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. We're just gonna end it right here then. Yeah. No.
Okay.
No. Let's. You're down. I'm assuming you're down. That was.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Good.
I totally forgot. People are not watching this. So they can't, okay.
Yeah. Exactly. All right.
I gotta make it known that I'm down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Okay. So 5 questions. There's no right or wrong answers. First thing that pops in your head, you just go for it. All right.
Like word association.
Kind of more so like an answer to the question, but if you want to do word association, that's fine too.
I actually have 2 for you after. I have 2 for you after. But
okay, done. Let's do it. Okay, here we go. Question number 1: what is the greatest donut of all time?
Oh,
and you can go. You can either go location or you can go like a type of donut.
Okay, location. Crave Donuts in Whitby, Ontario.
All right, done. You heard it here first. Okay. All right, Sophia, go.
All right. Next question. The TV show or movie that your parents didn't want you to watch or didn't let you watch?
That didn't let me watch.
That you wanted to.
That I wanted to. No, they let me watch anything.
Really?
Oh, nice.
Okay. Yeah. I think for most people, it's like Simpsons. It's like everybody wanted to watch it, but your parents are like, "Oh no, that's a really bad show. You shouldn't watch it." No, just me. Okay, cool.
I actually know what you're referring to, but no, they didn't really care. I mean, you just reminded me of something else. But my first movie that I ever watched was with my mom. It was at a movie theater at Sherwood Gardens in Toronto back in the day. It was My Favorite Martian. with Jeff
Oh.
Daniels.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, that was my first
Whoa.
ever movie experience, and this first movie I ever saw in
Really?
In
theater.
a theater.
Yeah.
Mine was Lion King.
Mine was
Oh.
Home Alone, which just dates me. I think.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Okay, number 3.
Okay, yeah, sorry, continue.
What's the most expensive thing you've ever broken?
A car?
Okay, all right. You totaled your car or what?
I've totaled
Broke
a
your
car.
car.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Whose was
That's a
it?
good-
Wait, whose was it if it wasn't yours?
I think it was my father's.
Oh no.
And that's why we never had a good relationship.
I was gonna say, I'm like, this is a full circle conversation.
Okay. And then this is a question we always ask everyone. What is your favorite kind of potato, or like your favorite way to eat potatoes? Like fries, mashed, scalloped. Yeah.
Oh, okay. A carb question.
Yeah, on Saturdays only. What is your favorite way to eat potatoes?
Potatoes. Oof. Well, I mean, I loved chips.
Mhm.
Okay, that counts.
Does that count?
What flavor?
Oh, jalapeno.
Ooh,
Nice.
Old Dutch.
Yes.
Old Dutch or Miss Vicky's?
Miss Vicky's,
Miss
man.
Vicky's, bro.
Yeah.
I'm with you guys there. I'm with you.
Old Dutch, get out of here.
Yeah.
Get out of here with that stuff.
Okay, and number 5, last question from us. I'm going to give you an option on this one. So it's either the book that you would take with you on a deserted island, or your most rewatched show, whichever one appeals to you more. If you're not really a reader.
Okay. I'll do show. Most rewatched show. Man. New Girl.
Really?
Man,
Interesting.
the dynamic in that show is impeccable.
That's a good
Who
one.
is your favorite?
They're all
character?
my favorite. I know it's such a cheap answer. They're all my favorite, man. Nick is just so freaking weird. And, you know,
Bro,
weird. I could be weird. Yeah, I love that guy, man. What does he say?
Winston and his pranks.
No,
though.
Schmidt is the only right answer.
Schmidt, 100% Schmidt is the only right answer, but Winston and his pranks, though, is like the funniest. That whole storyline of like how he just goes too freaking, he's like, let's burn him, and you're like, like that's so funny.
But that's the thing, right? We can all say these about every single character. Oh my god!
Except for Jess, apparently nobody.
Yeah,
likes
Jess is kind of there to keep the story moving.
She's just a pair of eyes and bangs.
Yeah.
Really.
I actually resonate with Jess in the sense that I can't take compliments. Like if a girl compliments me, like on a date or something, I'm just like, shut your beautiful face. Like, no, like, get away from me. Let's put the attention on you. What does Nick say, man? One of my favorite lines. He says, "I'm not convinced I know what words are. I just memorize them," or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Oh my god!
Or like, I'm not sure I know how to read. Like,
Yeah.
something.
The words. Yeah. Oh my god. He's got all the lines in that show. Okay, my
That's
turn.
a very relatable statement. Yes, continue.
Yeah, my turn. 2 questions. Number 1.
Okay, hit us.
If right now someone were to come to us, if we're seated together, and they knew the actual answer as to what happens after we die, what the actual 100%, like the actual answer of what the afterlife is, would you want to know or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You would?
100%,
Yeah,
without a
100%.
doubt in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
Really?
you wouldn't? Of course.
I don't think I would want to know, man.
Why?
Like, are you afraid of being disappointed?
Yeah.
Wait. Hold on. All right, do they know? Okay, because like this could
They
go
know
like
the
2 layers deep.
they
So
know.
like there's like the general, like, okay, they know that there is an afterlife or there is not an afterlife, or they know that you specifically are going to hell or heaven. Because like those are 2 very different things.
They know every layer, every level, everything.
See,
Where
I
you're
would
going,
wanna
if
know-
there is a hell or heaven, like what, or if it's reincarnation, or whatever. Like they know the
Right.
whatever it can be.
Yeah, I'd want to know for sure. I don't think I'd want to know about me personally, but I would want to know, like, yeah, for sure.
What are
You're
the
on the
options?
right path. Like, keep doing what you're doing, you know? Like,
I don't think I would want to know, man. I would just be
I'd like to know my options, I think.
interesting.
Yeah.
I think I would just be disappointed. Like, oh, that's it.
I think I would just become like a totally different human being if they were like, oh no, there's nothing, and I would be like, okay, my entire life is a lie. Like it's time for me to change everything. You know, I would want to know that information for sure.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay.
know?
Second question was, if you could go back to any time, any era, and come back to the present, where would you go, and what would you want to take back with you? like knowledge wise.
That's a good one.
Right.
Do you have an answer that you can kick us off with?
Yeah, I want to know who the hell made those pyramids.
Don't we know? Do we not? We know who made the pyramids.
No,
what do you mean?
Do we? I want to see it.
Do we?
I want to see it.
Oh, are you like you're like Illuminati guy?
Hey,
or what?
man, hey, all-seeing eye, baby. I don't know.
Yo. Oh shit. Okay. I didn't even think about that.
The UFOs are here, dude. The aliens are here now. I don't know, man.
Oh man. All right. I think I would probably want to go to like a prehistoric time like that too. Like not like prehistoric. I just mean like ancient time. Where but like I would want to take technology with me just to like see what would happen, you know?
Huh.
Just like you take like a fully charged iPhone and just like show people in like
so
50,
the dinosaurs.
Like,
yeah, we like want to go like the Mesozoic era or something.
No. I mean like, you know, an era where there's still like civilization, but just like 1500s, 1600s, you know, see what would happen.
I feel like I'd want to I was just gonna say I'd want to go to the future, and I'd want to like because obviously
past. He said past.
Oh, it's only past.
Yeah, because I would go future
anytime.
For sure.
There's rules.
Okay, sorry, the rules, right? Okay, past. Okay, then I don't know. I have to continue your conversation.
Yeah, or I would go to like November 2019 and slap that bat out of that dude's hand. That's a potential option too.
Oh yeah, you're looking at the pyramids, and you still think it comes from a bat soup?
I mean, or I would go to that lab and just like lock it down, whichever one it is.
Right. That's a good answer.
Whichever one.
Oh man,
yeah.
You actually
that's a good one.
As you're still thinking, I was just gonna say this. You actually reminded me of a film, Synchronic. It just came out on Netflix with Anthony Mackie. It's about how like the guy has the power to just stand anywhere and travel back into it. Oh man, I'm such a bad pitch. He doesn't know what era or what time he goes back to, but every place he stands sends him back.
Oh, interesting.
To like, you know, a different civilization, and he gets to like record it.
Huh. Worth watching. Is that a recommendation?
It's a slow burner a little bit. It's just I think it's like a nice indie film you can check out.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I got my answer.
Yeah.
I'm going to the day that Jeff Bezos like invented or incorporated Amazon, and I'm stealing it from him, and I'm gonna pay. Listen, I'm gonna pay workers fairly. I'm gonna pay my taxes. I'm gonna save the environment, and the world would be a different place.
Sophia doesn't know how capitalism works. That's like that's a conversation for another day.
Capitalism sucks. I hate it. Can I ask like a random question? I know we're like very over time, but I just have one that I kind of want to ask.
Joe Rogan podcast. Let's go.
We're going 4 hours today. We're going 4 hours.
Okay, so I was listening to this podcast, and if you know Matt and Kim as the musicians couple, they were on it, and one of the questions that they had was if you could be 25% hotter, but you would be 25% less intelligent. Like there's a pill you could take and it would make you 25% hotter, but like 25% dumber. Would you take it?
I'm going to have to cut you off right there because if people can't see Daniel Malik, this guy is beyond beautiful. Like he does not need any pills. Like,
okay, and this
is just a ridiculous question.
Shut your head.
This is just a ridiculous question. Like, why are you asking Daniel Malik, like easily one of the best looking men on the planet? Why are you asking this question, Sophia?
I was asking generally for the record, not as like a comment like you can't be 25% hotter. It would burn our eyes. But my point is though, also Daniel, just so you know, like Sikandar, like has like pictures of you on his phone that he saved.
It was required to show people being like, oh, we're interviewing Daniel Malik. That some people
they're like,
not have been as familiar. No, I'd be like, he's a very good looking man. And they'd be like, let me see his photo. So it's in our chat. It just happens to be in our chat. That's all I'm saying.
But I would like to point out that this has happened twice, and he's had the same photos in the same order, which leads me to believe that they are not random internet finds, but they are like saved on his phone.
Everybody needs a little Daniel Malik on their phone. That's all I'm saying.
You might be his background.
The truth is, I've sent Sikandar 1 or 2 nudes. Okay.
I keep those private. Don't worry.
We can say it.
He hasn't shared those with the group. So
that's exactly.
Man, I was on your Instagram, man. I was like, God damn, this guy's handsome.
Buddy, me too, man. I was on your Instagram saying the exact same thing. So
Hey, man, I could appreciate a man, man. You
exactly. That's all I'm saying. It's all I'm saying. I'm like,
good
guys,
dude, man. I have the.
this is the new podcast. Me and
Yeah.
Dan just complimenting each other.
I don't even need to be here. I'll leave you two alone.
Can you close your camera for a second? So
you can just stare at each other.
Yeah,
you got it.
Perfect.
I'm obsessed with, like, I don't know, man. I think it's to do with, like, my body dysmorphia of my own body, but, like, I'm in such admiration for, like, a man's body. Like, I don't know, like, I just a guy who takes care of himself, like his physique, is just like I find that attractive, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bro, it is.
Get after it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. On that beautiful note, I feel like that's a good place to end.
On Daniel's beautiful face, that
Exactly
is where
right.
we'll end.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Daniel, thank you again so much for joining us, man. Where can people find you and your work? Hit us with some social handles.
On Sikandar's phone. What's your phone number? Say it.
Guys,
His
hit me up.
best
I'll
work.
send you all of
His best work is on Sikandar's phone.
Exactly.
oh my god.
I mean, social media, I guess, right? That's where everyone is these days. I mean, I take hiatus from time to time, but I think I'm more active at the moment because I am, producing a new little thing. So yeah, I mean, my social media channels kind of thing, Twitter.
Which are? Tell us.
Old man Dan. No. I am Daniel Malik because I have to introduce myself all the time. So.
All right, and you can follow his donut journey along at Danny Sweet Tooth as well if you guys are looking.
Yes.
Quick plug over there as well.
Yes.
Daniel, thank you again so much for your time, man. This was an absolute pleasure.
Oh man, you know what? It was
in more ways than one.
Yeah. Right on.
Now it's getting weird. Thank you.
A little too weird. It was a lot of fun, guys.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Halal Gap. Join us in 2 weeks for our next guests, Rami Khan and Sadaf Javed from the legendary Il Muslims team. The Halal Gap is a Mosquers production. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok by searching Mosquers Film Festival. Thank you to our sound editor, Hamad Arafi, our tile artist, Narmeen Syed, our video editor, Arish Jamil, and of course, our producer, terrific Todd himself, Asif Qureshi. On behalf of Sofia and myself, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.